11:01 a.m. local time, Monday, April 14th, 2194, Township of Tisrego. In the grand scheme of things, I considered myself lucky to have so many good AIs on my side. Despite that fact, when I was finally able to reinitiate communication with the Bat out of Hell, I was greeted with a familiar female voice. "Where did you put me?" she asked, and before I could answer, she followed with a sarcastic, "Well, if it was your idea, this is going to be wonderful." Somehow, everyone's favorite passive-aggressive, sadistic AI had found its way into my computer system. Dealing with GLaDOS in the middle of a Replicator invasion was not my idea of ideal circumstances. Either way, beggars can't be choosers, so I politely asked her if she could fly the ship. "I can try, but flying this bucket isn't my idea of a spectacular job. Don't get angry if it goes straight into the ground." And then, with a large dose of her typical self, she added, "You know what? I'll just try to pick you up before that happens." Great, I thought to myself. A few minutes later, the Bat out of Hell came careening into the blackwood trees above our heads, raining down clumpy wooden shards. One of the thicker trees clipped the left nacelle, and she came spiraling down to the cobblestone streets. Mayor Silmet came walking up behind me, saying, "I see your ship has arrived." "It could have been better," I replied. I walked towards the landing area, which in this case was just another term for a crash site. As I approached the ship, I noticed that the landing gear was positively mangled. No using that again. The rear hatch, somehow still functioning, opened slowly. Just inside the cargo compartment stood the two survivors of the science team. Thankfully, one of them was Lauren. "Oh my God, you're all right." "I made it. Just barely. It's going to be a while until I get this team back to full strength again," she sighed. "But at least I have Ernest." She turned to the other survivor and he stepped forwards. His badge read E. Lockade. He was tall, dark-skinned, and had icy gray eyes. He looked a strange shade of worry. "Good morning, Private." I stretched my hand to greet him. He shook it, but barely. "Sorry, sir, I'm still a bit traumatized." He shook his head, trying to break free of what was ailing him. "I've never seen a swarm of things move like that." "Get used to it," I said. "We're going back." "You're going back?" Mayor Silmet was shocked. The crowd that had gathered echoed his surprise. I suddenly felt myself become the center of attention. I stood tall and nearly announced what followed. "There's no way this coordinated attack was organized by the Replicators themselves. This is my only lead." "You're crazy," he replied. "But it's a respectable kind of crazy. Count me in." 4 people against a town full of Replicators isn't much of a fair fight, Lauren noted. "If we had the rest of the team, I'd be set, but..." I cut her off. We're going to call in backup. And I knew just the team for the job. "Get in." And with that, I stepped up the ramp into the Bat out of Hell, my plan being formulated as I went. I walked into the cockpit to have my concentration broken. From the ceiling of the cockpit, hanging directly from the holographic emitter, was the digitized form of GLaDOS. Her hanging body took a place over the center console, filling a good portion of the interior space. She turned and narrowed her single orange eye at me when I entered the room. The following, "Welcome back," was dripping with sarcasm. "Yes, hello, GLaDOS. How have you been?" "I've been doing all right," she mused, tolerating the other AIs in storage. "I want to have my own ship again." "Well, that's going to be a long shot. We haven't built a ship since, I think, year 250 thereabouts. I tried to recall when we pieced together Lucky Number 13 from discarded starship parts. In the meantime, I could hear Ernest, Lauren, and Mayor Silmet working their way up towards the front of the ship. Lauren finally emerged from the cockpit side door. She was being closely followed. GLaDOS turned to the mayor as he walked in. He stopped dead in his tracks and gaped. "What in the hell is that?" The sound of the reaction was nothing compared to the look on his face. "Don't call me that," she replied. "I am the genetic life form and disk operating system. I am the single largest collection of—" Yeah, GLaDOS, shut up," I told her. She had virtually no power here. "I need to place a call." Instead of using my PTD, I stuck my hand underneath GLaDOS and tapped a radio frequency into the communications panel on the center console. After a few rings, the Admiral picked up. "Cortana, you there?" "Cortana reporting. We're okay up here. How's it going?" "Okay? What happened to the replicator ships?" "Well, maybe okay is a bit of an overstatement. We're still here, and that's all that matters." "I'll take issue with that later," I said. "I was very protective of my ships. However, I am planning to fly back to Javashid and take out the replicators there. I know it's dangerous, but it's our only chance of figuring this out." "Figuring what out? These replicators came from 2 different sources. I don't think... You run the numbers. Tell me that with all the astronomical odds out there, a dual-pronged replicator assault with 3 ships working together is likely? I don't know why I was so tense on the issue, but I couldn't keep myself from getting upset. "I need you to get in touch with Stargate Command. Tell them to send the best they have, and be prepared for the worst." "All right. I'll tell you what they say." 11:37 a.m. local time, Monday, April 14th, 2194, over the Jafashian Desert. We'd been flying for just under 5 minutes when we had our first indication of the replicator's existence, and it was a big one. From the cockpit window I saw a swarm of brown, sweeping across the sandy wasteland. "Oh my God, there have got to be thousands of them," Lauren remarked. I kept us flying straight as she stared at the forming mass. "What the hell are they—" "Bank left!" The ship pitched as we rolled and swung away from the replicators. They had transformed into something akin to an enormous wooden arm, and were now swinging at us. They slid along the ground like some sort of serpent before swinging again. I yelled into the comm, "Admiral, we're gonna need—" before realizing there was no signal lock. After dodging once more, I finally realized that we were being jammed. I then gave an order that should have already been issued. "Ernest, get in the weapon tube and fire everything we've got!" Behind me, the tall private clicked open the door to a small cylindrical room, displaying a 360-degree view of the area around the ship. The reticule moved as the operator looked, and the trigger dispensed round after round of superheated plasma into the target. The ship shuddered as he fired, and I kept a cautious eye on the power levels. "GLaDOS, get in there and give him firing solutions." "I'm going." She vanished. "Break right!" Lauren yelled, as they swung a red plasma bolt, relatively low power, ripped into the wooden mass. Tiny machines were thrown as an explosion from deep within the arm caused the creation to fall to flaming pieces. Engulfed by static, tiny bits of conversation entered my radio. "Command, dispatch SG, arriving, replicators." I was catching the signals that the Admiral was sending and receiving. That meant that the disruption was breaking up. Excellent. "Keep firing!" I yelled. Shots landed all around the scattering opponents. Burning wooden monsters popped like corn in a kettle. In the distance, the wooden buildings of Jafashid glowed in the midday light. Yet something was off. And then, as if on cue, one of the nearest buildings tipped and crumbled into dust. A swarm emerged from the debris and came streaming out to join the already sizable army flowing beneath us. "It's like the whole city's coming after us," Lauren mouthed. "Good, it means they're not going after SG-1, I noted, but I was wrong. Over the comm, the silence was broken. A strong signal, becoming stronger as we approached the center of town, was broadcasting on an emergency frequency. "This is Samantha Carter of SG-1. We have replicators in hot pursuit. Anti-friendly forces in the area. Please respond." And then another voice cut in. "Admiral, where the hell are you?" Both Lauren and I recognized it as the Stargate program's famous General O'Neill. How was he still alive? She wondered aloud. The SGC started using stasis pods back in the 2000s to keep their most prized members alive. We're probably some of the only people to ever access them. I picked up the radio. "This is Admiral Ellis of the TTO. We are inbound with a replicator army behind us. We have ship-mounted artillery. You may want to hold up for now. Over." "Understood, Admiral. We're working on barricading the town hall's doors," O'Neill replied. Lauren fiddled with the console before signaling me. I looked above my head to see the power in the batteries declining rapidly. "Uh-oh," I said. "Lauren, give the bottom turret plasma straight from the reactor. I'll drop the compression to compensate." With less constriction in the fusion reactor, I need to put more fuel into both the fission and fusion components of the DRFA-HFR in order to keep the power flowing. However, this meant that we generated a lot more plasma in exchange for a less efficient fuel consumption and electricity output. But now it was a tricky balance. Lowering the pressure lowered the temperature, a high amount of which is needed to fuse. Pouring more radon through the reactors does help, but when you're dumping the plasma, it only works to a point. GLaDOS! I'm sure he's alright in there now. Give me a hand with these reactors. She reappeared above my head, hanging from the ceiling emitter. The controls on the reactor console above my head began shifting erratically, before falling into a rhythm. There we go, she said proudly. I have... Ellis, look out! Lawrence shouted. As co-pilot, she only had absolute control if I transferred it to her. She could not, on her own, turn to avoid the replicator's spire that was directly ahead. At the last second, I pulled a hard left. We didn't miss. The tower of wood scraped along the side of the ship at almost 100 miles per hour, before slamming into the nacelle. Heavier than I can control, we rolled to the right as the starboard reactor stalled, sending us into a spiral. I reached above my head and slammed the fire button, desperately trying to restart it. Alarms rang out, error lights flashed red. I cut the throttle and jammed on the anti-gravity plus pedal, wrenching the yoke as hard as I could to right us. The auto-hover was barely responding. We were plummeting. With a terrible noise, we slammed through the roof of a building. Glass from the windows of the storefront shattered as we smashed through the bottom of 2 floors. We clipped a display case and demolished a wooden desk before obliterating the front of the building and skidding out into the town square. The dry fountain cracked at the base and crumbled into our windshield. Ernest and Mayor Silmet stumbled confusedly into the cockpit. If that didn't call everything in this godforsaken town running in our direction, nothing will, Silvet mumbled. On that note, no less than 5 structures around the square teetered and then disintegrated. Thousands of wooden machines came pouring forth towards us. The surviving reactor gave me just enough power to raise us off the dusty street before they coalesced into a massive wooden blob beneath us, and then began to rise. I didn't have the power to run away. "Admiral!" I yelled into the comm. "I need heavy artillery fire on our position immediately! Do you copy? We've got 1 good shot. Target locked, over." "Fire!" "Admiral, you're not clear of the..." "Fire now!" I gunned the engines and we lurched forwards, hobbling out of the way, just as an enormous beam of red death came flying down from space. A Hollywood-sized fireball and concussive shockwave of a bomb blast followed it. Whatever was left standing near the square earlier wasn't anymore. The bat out of hell was thrust forwards like a bullet. Ernest tumbled across Lauren's console and under the windshield as we lost control, and landed hard, nose first, into the ground. I blacked out.